All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our October webinar, How to Make the Most of Your First 30 Days with TraceAir. We're really excited for you all to be here so we can walk you through some of the best practices when you start a new project with TraceAir. Let's see, next slide. My name is Isabella Canori. I'm a program lead here at TraceAir. I've been here about 4 years. I've onboarded hundreds of projects, trained hundreds of clients, so I'm really excited to talk you through this today. Also on the call, I have Ray Fiore. Ray, I'll let you do a quick intro for yourself.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Ray. I'm the CS lead here at TraceAir, and our job is to deliver you guys the most value throughout your project from startup to the finish and beyond.
Absolutely. So we're going to be kind of breaking up the 30 days week by week. Makes it a little bit more digestible, helps you think about the milestones that you should be hitting that first month of your project. So that's how we'll break it down. And then at the end, we'll have time for a Q&A. There also should be a Q&A chat at the bottom of your screen. So feel free to throw questions in there for us to tackle at the end. But we'll make sure there's time for any questions you have about the content or other, TraceAir topics. So starting with week one, right off the bat, the first thing that I like to emphasize to really set up your project for success is your kickoff call. So anytime you start a new project, Ray and his team will offer a kickoff call to get you trained up on the platform. And that can be for you, your entire team, your contractors, anyone you want can be on that call. And the reason why I kind of emphasize this as the number one is that is your time to have one-on-one training with your CSS, your customer success specialist, live, answer all your questions, run through the tools. I really do think that sets you up for success rather than trying to do it on your own, right? It really sets the foundation and gives you that one-on-one training. Wouldn't you agree, Ray, that it's just the most important thing you can do to kick off your project?
Absolutely. Everyone's site is different. Everyone is in different phases of their site. So really understanding, your strategy, your keys to success on your site, and us helping you uncover those tools so you can use them and, get the most value from the platform.
Absolutely. So with that, now let's jump into the platform and we'll kind of look at some of the other tools that are going to be important for that week one. So week one, we've had our kickoff call. The next thing that's really important is your user management. So with TraceAir, you have unlimited users. And during that first week, it's really crucial to set everyone's access up. So yeah, if you just go to the top right corner there and click manage site users, that's how you can add anyone from your team within your organization or external stakeholders and contractors, unlimited. And I definitely recommend getting them added that week one. That way everyone's on the same page, can see the data from the very beginning of the project, and it really keeps everyone on the same page. So I always want to emphasize, get those users added week one so everybody can start getting value and using all the tools that you have, contracted. The next thing that's really important that week one is setting up your Pano 360. So every time we fly the site, you get an updated panorama shot. Usually by default, we're taking this at the center of the site, but we can take this shot anywhere. And this is one of our most popular tools, even though it's just a quick visualization. So making sure that we're capturing this over an important area of work. So whether it's the active grading area, maybe an important amenity that's going to be installed, or a tricky offsite area that you want to keep tabs on, getting that set up week one will also really help set the project up for success so you can monitor what's really important to you on the project. And on your larger sites, we can add additional Pano 360s as well. Now, the other item that's really crucial for week one is your overlays, your overlay uploads, and your overlay management. So Ray's going to turn on the overlays tab over there on the left. Your overlays are all of the two-dimensional files that can be uploaded to the platform. So really anything in CAD format, you can get loaded. And again, one of our most popular tools, you can catch so much stuff just with your overlays, right? Because you can really see how the site is shaping up in real time compared to your plans. And also for those larger projects where you're going to have dozens and dozens of files, creating a folder structure to keep them organized is super crucial. So that's something I definitely recommend doing week one, setting up your folder structure. adding all of the relevant CAD and keeping it organized so everybody can clearly understand, where your files are and how that structure works. Super, super critical week one. And this is something that Ray's team can really, help you get set up and organized on that kickoff call as well. Um, Next, week one is getting familiar with some of our more basic but powerful tools. So let's look at the measure tab. Week one, I would really want my clients to be oriented with stockpiles and the cross-section tool. Again, super simple, but really powerful. So Ray's going to show these real quick for us. Stockpiles, again, we are going to be able to measure any stockpile you have on site and get those quick calculations. Ray is just measuring a really small stockpile here, but you can do any size and quickly get those quantities. We're not comparing to any files, just raw dirt quantities. You don't have to wait for the surveyor, super quick information about your site and the dirt that you have. And then the other one is going to be cross section. So cross section is going to give you a really nice elevation profile. Ray's just going to draw a nice linear feature here over this road. And when he makes his selection, you can see the blue line is the scan surface and the dotted line is the design grade. So you can easily see how close to grade you are from a really nice cross-section elevation profile view. Super, super powerful. And then this works really well with your overlays, right? Turn on your overlays and use those files as your guide to your measurements. So that would be week one. Now let's jump into week two. Ray's going to show you a couple beneficial tools for that week two. Maybe you have your second scan week two, right, for weekly flights. Let's see what Ray's going to show us for week two.
Yeah, absolutely. And the first tab I want to draw your attention to here is the Compare Services tab, because
Mhm.
this is going to be the foundation of the next two tools we'll be looking at. So if you click on Compare Services, the first item you'll see is Design Grade. And if you activate this, what this is doing is comparing the current surface of May 17th to your design grade. So this is showing what is the work that needs to be done to get to your design grade. The next one you can see here is if you have an original topo, we can absolutely upload that. If you had done a LiDAR scan with us, we can upload that, no problem. And then the scan, the item below that is the May 9th. So this is comparing the May 17th flight to the May 9th flight. So what this is highlighting is the work that has been done between May 9th and May 17th. So with that set up, with that knowledge in your hand, let's go and look at the plan and track and cut fill balance tool. So what we like to do when we're first getting started on the kickoff call is just create a full whole site balance of your site. This is a one-time set it and forget it type deal, where as you encapsulate the whole site, you'll get the overall balance of the current status of the site. And what we're going to do for best practice is to save this. And we will name it as whole site.
Mhm.
And then at any point in the future, when you have new scans, these calculations are going to automatically update. So
Mhm.
that's what I said, set it and forget it. You only have to do it once, and the calculations will be done for you.
Mhm. Especially helpful in the bigger sites or the more complex grading areas. You don't have to go in and draw it every single time you get a new scan. Just go in once, capture everything you're interested in, and then, like Ray said, set it and forget about it. Just turn it on with each new scan.
Absolutely. And every site is different. So you can do a whole site, you could do phase one, you can do phase two. You
Mhm.
know, as granular as you want to get, you can get there.
Mhm.
So I'm going to go to save quantities and I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to turn this layer off and I can always come back to it. So the next tool I'm going to show you is the plan and track quantities tool. And as we had just discussed before with the compare services, we're now comparing to the May 9th survey. So this is going to show you and calculate the exact measurements of what has been done since the last scan. And we'll just encapsulate this specific area, this stockpile that we're looking at, this area, and it will show the total cut and the total fill complete between these two dates. Now, as you get more scans in your system, you can click on this cumulative tab, and this can, we can go back a little bit further, and it's going to automatically calculate for every scan in the future, and you can compare it to anything. So you can really verify the dirt that is being moved on site.
Mhm.
And again, I'm going to keep tracking. I'm going to say phase 2. And because I have done this, I saved it, I can always just come back to it in my Save Quantities tab and activate it or deactivate it. But as you'll see here, it's calculating everything automatically.
Mhm. Perfect. And that's definitely what we would want to see after a couple weeks, right? Is familiarizing yourself with those more powerful, dirt calculation tools and creating those saved quantities. Now, as we move into week 3, we've got more scan data to work with. Now, this is where I would really want to see folks starting to create exhibits and getting more collaborative. So we have this really great tool called Exhibits, where you can save pretty much all of your measurements. Any of the tools really we just showed can be saved as an exhibit. But I really like to show it with the utilities tool. So we'll show the utilities tool and creating a collaborative exhibit that you can share with your team, with contractors, to kind of get everybody on the same page. So we're going to turn on this water supply overlay, showing where the water lines are going to be installed. And then I'll have Ray go to plan and track again, and we'll turn on the utilities tool. And what we're going to do is just create like a nice visualization of the work that's been completed and the work that still remains. So we'll just call this water. We'll make it blue so it's color coded. And then you can put your total planned feet in, or you can leave it 0, totally up to you. And now everywhere that you click and measure, Ray's going to show you right here, once you kind of create the line that you're happy with, it's going to measure each segment and then give you that running total as well. So you can easily quantify and visualize what's been installed or what still needs to be. So we can then add like another category for sewer, whatever it is you're interested in tracking. In this example, I'll actually have you label this one as, water line completed as of 10/22. And then we can add to this and keep it up to date. So yeah, once you're, starting your visualization, you can also add text, you can add arrows, really to make whatever you're trying to visualize crystal clear. So we'll say that this has been completed. And then maybe we'll do another category of what needs to still be completed next week. So Ray, when you're done with that, I'll have you add one more category. And we'll say water needs to be installed or needs to be completed. And then we'll give it a different blue color or a different color. Now we'll do the light blue, click add. And then now he can continue this nice visual to show what still needs to be completed, right? And we can quantify the linear feet that needs to be completed next week. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. And then, yeah, looks great. And when you're done kind of making your first go at this, all you're going to need to do when you're happy with it is click Save Exhibit in the top left. Perfect. You'll give it a name. You can restrict the access, so you can either have the whole team see it or make this private. And when it is for the whole team, you can restrict the editing. So if you want it to be more collaborative, leave it as everyone can edit. If you've done a ton of work in here and don't want anyone to mess with it, you can do only view, which will restrict the editing and folks can only view that. Now you're going to click Create Public Exhibit. And when Ray X's out of this, when we clear the map, that is now saved under your exhibits tab over on the left-hand side. And everything that we just saved, if you turn that back on, pops back up. So it's a really nice bookmark for whatever you're working on, but then it creates this nice visual that now you can share at maybe your biweekly land meeting. You can take a screenshot of this and send it directly to the contractor and make it really crystal clear, what your expectations are. Um, it's a really great way to keep everybody on the same page and in the loop. And that's really what we want to see kind of that week 3, right? You're starting to share the data and create meaningful updates within the platform that benefit the whole team and keep everybody on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. You can copy the link so anyone who has access, because you have unlimited users, they can come in and depending upon the sharing settings, they can come in, make edits, view from their office. You know, it's really a very valuable tool to and capture the specific progress that is happening on site.
Yep. And you can keep these totally updated as you get new scans, or you can create new exhibits to track the progress. It's totally up to you. I also think, this specific overlay is a great example too of some of the items that you can catch with your overlays. Because you'll kind of notice here with this overlay, you can see that the trenching is actually a little bit south of where it's noted on the plans. So right here, this is where you can start to catch things, grab those screenshots and say, hey, why are you trenching 10 feet south of the plans? Are you wrong? Are the plans wrong? You can start to have these conversations and get ahead of, costly mistakes and save a lot of time. We all know in construction, your time is just as valuable, right? So anything you can do to save time is really going to benefit everybody in the long run.
Absolutely. And so you can share that exhibit, or for a quick share, you can use the snip screen tool here. It'll take an image of exactly what you're looking at. You can send that off via text, via email, whatever you need.
Yep, absolutely. So now we're wrapping up week 3. We've created some exhibits. We've shared with our contractors and maybe at some of our internal meetings, all of our users are set up. Now we'll kind of jump into that, week 4 and 5 as we kind of wrap up our 30 days.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, go ahead, Ray.
No, yeah, absolutely. As scans progress, you know, you'll start to, as we were just speaking about, you'll be able to catch some, things that are happening incorrectly on the site, and really avoid a lot of rework.
Mhm.
And I'm just going to go and pull up our design grade line work. And if I zoom in here, I'll be able to catch, a potential, mismatch of what happened in the field versus what my plans were. And one thing that we can do here is, you know, the line work is a little thick, a little bright. We can move the opacity here so you can really uh, mix the visuals between the line work and the site.
Yep, another great example of just all the things that you can catch with your overlays and really see what's going on the site compared to your plans. Awesome. Also, this week 4, right? You've been using the data in your office. This is also where we see folks saving a lot of time, maybe on some of their site visits, right? So if you have a site that's really far away from your office, of course, site visits are still important and still crucial and still necessary. But if you could save one visit out of your week because you have a recent scan that shows you exactly what you would need to check, that's a win, right? So we like to see at this point in time too, maybe saving a little bit of windshield time. You can go to sites that are maybe more critical or attend to more business in the office, right? This is really where you'll see a lot of benefit, especially if you're getting the scans regularly. And then when you actually are out on the site, right, doing those crucial site visits, this is where I love to see people starting to use TraceAir Mobile. So TraceAir Mobile works just as well on your phone or tablet as it does on your desktop or laptop. And it can be really beneficial when you're out on site. So that's why I also always recommend folks, give it to the folks that are actually out on the site every day, because they can pull up the plans and take measurements while they're out there on the fly. Super, super beneficial. Um, and there's just so many use cases, right, when you're actually out on the site. And I think Ray's going to show us really quick how to maybe do some markups and add some photos when you're actually out on the site.
Yeah, and when you are on site, if you hit this triangle button over here on the right, you'll see it on your phone or your tablet. what this does is this geolocates you on your site, and you'll see a blue dot, where your location is. So people really like this to see, the plans, from above and actually seeing it live in person.
Mhm.
Um, and so when you are, going around site, you're making punch lists or anything like that. What a really valuable tool here is under markup and save point. So let's say that you were next to this error that you caught on site. You can place a point there. You can, select a folder. Maybe you have a punch list folder or an error folder. You give it a name. But the key thing here is where you click upload photo, you can take a picture of this error or whatever right on site on your iPad, iPhone, whatever, upload it, and then you can come back to it at any point. You can make a comment that, it was resolved. We need to resolve this. And then the people in the office will be able to see this and, make adjustments in real time.
Yep. Absolutely. And I had a really great story recently. I had a client that was out on the site and they were actually um, getting closer to wrapping up development. And they had the contractor come to install the entrance monument for the community. And they arrived before they had the surveyor stake out where it was supposed to go. And on the fly, he was able to pull up his plans on TraceAir Mobile, see exactly where the entrance monument was supposed to be, virtually stake it essentially, and they were able to complete the install that day. Whereas if he didn't have TraceAir, he would have had to send them away, reschedule them, get the surveyor that, who knows how long it would have taken. He was able to solve that problem on the fly, save a bunch of time, and then that's one thing off of his, checklist, for the week. So I thought that was a really great one to share.
Yeah, and I'm sure he used some simple tools like distance and slope, being able to measure something,
Yep.
while you're on site looking at the overlays. If you don't have, the tools on site to do that, you can do that from the platform.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and one thing I also wanted to highlight is this tool that we like to call the time machine. And how we sort of activate this is we go to our scans tab where we see here July 2nd. And this is going to activate this blue rectangle, this time machine here.
Mhm.
And as you see, the more scans that you get into the platform, you'll be able to take more advantage of this. So over time, we want to see, when did the pond started to get filled in? We can just quickly zoom through this card view, and we can easily identify, April 17th, March 21st. This is when we actually started to fill it in. So by doing this, by scanning across, we can really see when progress is happening historically.
Yes, definitely helps you navigate back to like a specific milestone on the site, or if you're trying to pinpoint an issue, this can be super, super helpful just visually to navigate where you want to go, especially, as the project progresses and you have lots of scans, in your scans list over there.
And
Um,
especially when, a lot of engineers like the surface files, like they like the tin models, right? So you can go back to a specific date and you can easily export these files. You can ask that your CSS, you can ask your program manager, and we'll get these files exported for you.
mhm.
And you'll be able to, pop these into your software and make the adjustments.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And I always go back to, right, unlimited users. You can also add your engineers directly to the platform to access the scans and files directly. I think that at this point, right, as you're wrapping up those 30 days, adding some of those other collaborators, stakeholders in the project, this is a really great time to do that because there's a lot of benefit that they can get out of it as well. And as we wrap up, our first 30 days, all of these great tools that we just showed you, I always want to emphasize that you do have a dedicated support team with Ray and the CSS team. That kickoff is not just a one-time training. We can do those as the site progresses, as you add new team members. We really want to be here to help make your project successful. So Ray, I'll let you talk a little bit more too about some of the things that your team can offer as far as training, continued learning, because we love to emphasize that.
For sure. And Exactly. The kickoff call is not a one and done thing. We are here to, be strategically advising you on your site because every site is different, as we mentioned earlier. But you're busy and sometimes you want to do something, you want to analyze something, and you may not know the exact tool or the workflow to get that done. You call us up, you email us, you can use the support button down here to get in touch with us quickly,
Mhm.
and we'll get back to you and we will make sure that, you know, we use the right tool combinations to get the insights that you need, on a regular basis. And, it doesn't have to be just, the land development team. We can easily have training sessions with your marketing and sales team, your executive team, your contractors. So it's really an endless support system that, we're here to drive the most value for you and your team.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. We want you to use it and we want to support you in using it to the best of the program's ability. Awesome. So those are the main topics that we wanted to cover for the first 30 days. I hope these workflows helped you and maybe gave you some inspiration of new tools to try. There are a couple of questions in the chat that we can answer. But if you have any additional questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat at this time. I think we're timing it really well. We're kind of approaching that 30-minute mark. So we do have about 10-15 minutes for questions. So let's take a look at what's in the chat already. And again, please do not hesitate to throw in any questions. Let's see, one of the questions is, what is the right scan cadence for a project? Like how soon after we capture will scans be ready? So we typically recommend during active grading when you're moving the most dirt, weekly or bi-weekly scans. That way you're getting really regular updates and capturing all the changes. And then as you get closer to vertical, work slows down, maybe you're approaching winter, that's when sometimes we see folks switching to monthly. And then every time we fly the site, it's usually a 1-day turnaround for that data to be ready in the platform.
Exactly. And the next question we have is, which plan files should we upload first, grading utilities, and how do we manage revisions?
It's a great question.
That's a great question because the grading calculations, the site plans, we really recommend that you have, the latest and greatest, the most up-to-date revision from your engineers, and we can upload them into the site so you're looking at the most recent data that you're expecting. So some people start off, depending upon their phase of their site, but they'll start off with a rough grade, then they'll maybe move at a certain point in time to an intermediate and then a final grade, when you're really getting close to turning this lot over, to paving, things like that. So at any point during your flight cadence, we can update the design grade as well as overlays. And we sort of talked about it earlier, but when you come and you want to upload a new overlay, you can come to the Overlays tab, click New Overlay, and just add in your CAD file, and we'll get that turned around in a business day, if not sooner.
Yep, absolutely. And I'll also add, that archive folder can also be a really good folder to create. So that way, when you do add new plans, you can move outdated plans to the archive, not fully deleted in case you ever needed to reference them. But no one's going to be confused thinking those are the latest, greatest if they're in the archive folder. Perfect. Oh, and we have another question from Deborah. How do I get the app for my phone? Amazing question. So what's great about TraceAir is there is no app. It is all web-based. So whether you're on your phone or tablet, you're just going to access it on your Chrome or Safari browser, whatever you use for internet access on your phone. And you would just log in to office.traceair.net, just like you would on your desktop, and then you'll have all the tools there. And we do that because we know sometimes if folks are using company phones, sometimes there's restrictions to like apps that you can download. So we wanted to avoid that. It's all just web-based. Great question. Let's see, we've got a couple more here. How do we share exhibits and pinned markups with contractors to drive decisions? So a couple options for sharing. With the exhibits, there is that copy link to share button. However, if you share that, they do have to have a TraceAir login. If you shared it to someone that does not have access to your project, they wouldn't be able to see it. But if they do have access, that's a very fast and easy way to share it, is with that link. If you did want to share it with someone that you weren't planning on giving access to, then the workaround is always going to be that snip screen button, and it'll just take a nice high quality PNG, and then you can attach that to an email, send it in a Teams message.
And that sort of leads to another question here, or another topic here is that exhibits aren't static. They evolve over time. So for example, right now we're looking at the exhibit from May 9th, but we have this pulled up and then the next flight happened, right? And now we're looking at the May 17th. And before we had just put water to be completed, we can now adjust this and say that it has been complete. And all we can do here is come here and say that, water has been complete, line complete. Let's just say 10:30. And now we just save the exhibit and we'll get the opportunity here to update this current one or save as a new version. So it depends on your workflow, but typically you can just update it and you can always come back and reference this. So based on the markups that you made, the notes that you made, everything is here and accurate.
Absolutely. And let's see, we've got one more question in the chat. What's the fastest workflow to compare surfaces, review, cut, fill, and create saved quantities? I definitely think the fastest workflow is to really lean into the saved quantities, because once you create and save those, it's just 2 clicks to turn them on. So that's definitely the fastest workflow. And why we emphasize this for week 2, because then it's set up at the beginning of your project. Everybody on the project can see these and turn them on easily as well. I think that's another really, important thing to point out is anything that's in your overlays or saved quantities, it is public. Anybody can see them that has access to the project. So it can be a really great way to quickly have everybody have access to the same thing, just with 2 clicks. Yeah, great question.
There's a question here. How can I share a pano? That's a great question. And what's really great about panoramas is that you can share them with anybody. They don't need to have TraceAir access. So you can share this with your marketing team, with your sales team, executive team, anybody. All you have to do here is copy the link, and that will open up in, a browser tab. And as I said, anyone can view it. So this is a great way if you want to communicate, cross collaboratively with another department. They can share this really quickly.
Awesome. Any final questions? Feel free to throw them in the chat. I'll say this is probably last call for questions or anything else that you would want to see in the platform. But again, if you think of anything after this call, feel free to reach out to Ray or myself. And we're happy to help, with any additional questions. There's also that info@traceair.net, which is a general inbox that the whole team is regularly checking. So if you think of anything after, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you all so much for joining. Oh, looks sweet. One more question. Yay, I love it. Last call for questions. Let's see. What can cause scan elevation discrepancies? Well, luckily within TraceAir, our scans are going to be survey level accuracy. We place ground control points at the beginning of each project that are measured, surveyed, and then QC'd. And with every scan, the GIS team, our GIS team, does do QC on those points to make sure that everything is lining up, the elevations are good. I would say if there ever are any deviations, you probably just need to restore your ground control network, maybe clean some of them up and replace a couple. But the GIS team is always monitoring those markers. and Ray's team and my team will reach out when those markers need to be refurbished or replaced. But overall, we have a really great team that is setting up the scans with the ground control points and QCing them throughout the lifetime of the project to ensure your data is accurate and the best that it can be. Great question. Great question.
Yeah, and sometimes it can be something as simple as grass growing that is elevating your GCP, your flight marker.
Mhm.
It could be grass coming over your flight marker. Like it really can depend on, multiple factors. But we're always here to recommend the best locations for you to place them, the best setups and, markers to use. So yeah, it's a lot goes into it. It's a very complicated process. We
Mhm.
have a fantastic GIS team that is here to help at every stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I'll add to that grass comment. I have had folks say, "Man, this cut does look really heavy, right? Why does it look so heavy?" And a lot of the times we find it's vegetation. If there's excess vegetation growing on your lots that hasn't been cleared yet, sometimes that can make the cut be a little heavy. And then once that elevation is cut and cleared, everything goes back to normal. So that's usually the first thing I look for is like, is there any extra vegetation on your site? And that's usually a super easy fix as well. And anytime you ever have any questions about any of the elevations, any of the files, reaching out to Ray or myself, we're happy to hop on a call, look at your specific project, and answer any questions. Ask the GIS team. We're really always happy to help with those questions.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I think we are all set. Ray, do you think we're good? Any straggler questions coming in? I don't think so.
Not that I see. I
Okay.
think it was a very great overview of, some of the best things to do through weeks 1 to 4. But everything is, custom to, different sites and everything. So that's why we really recommend, at least, from our team, is that please, if you have any questions, if you need any training, please reach out to us and, we'll be there and be able to support you.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone so much for joining today. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Thank you so much. Bye everyone.
Yep, thank you.